Coming up on Theater Talk.
I'm amazed at the imagination on Broadway this year. I mean, not only Bullets Over Broadway, Aladdin, Bridges of Madison County, Rocky. Let's take a movie and make it into a musical.
Is this a new trend? This
No,
making movies into musicals?
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation.
From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
So, Michael, the larks on the wing, the snails on the thorn, and spring.
Where did you pull those? What are you talking about? What is this?
Spring is a coming in.
Is that Rodgers and Hammerstein?
Is that Rodgers and Hammerstein?
No, it's Robert Browning, song from Pippa Passes.
Oh, of course, I should have recognized that.
Thank you.
We better take that again. That's not.
No, keep it going. Now, don't you have any spontaneity?
You do.
Yes, keep it going. All right. We are here for our
Keep
spring.
going.
We are here for our spring preview. A lot of new shows coming to Broadway and Off-Broadway, and here to discuss all that's coming up, we have Adam Feldman from Time Out. Welcome, Adam. Are you a snail or a lark?
I'm a lark.
You're a lark.
Learning to pray.
Oh, that's lovely. Michael Musto from Michael Musto.
Out.com, I'm a buzzard.
You're a buzzard, right?
Circling the remains of Broadway.
And Jesse Green from New York Magazine. What are you? What kind of spring animal are you?
A worm.
That fits for a critic. And Susan, I'm not going to even ask you what kind of animal you are. But would you like to be a spring animal?
I'm a beautiful butterfly.
Okay. They don't live very long. All right. The one thing I want to talk about is the show that might win all the awards, possibly, is Bullets Over Broadway. Woody Allen's movie turned into a musical directed by Susan Stroman. What do we know about this? What's your sense of it?
I don't really know yet. You know, it's been in the works for a while, and the movie is terrific, and it seems like a natural prospect, but you wonder how it's going to transfer into being a musical. And he co-wrote the movie with Doug McGrath,
Right.
and he's written the book for the musical himself.
Way back
Beautiful.
when,
Beautiful.
Doug McGrath wrote it?
Maybe that's
Yeah,
why he's not
Former
writing.
Theater Talk guest?
Yeah.
Wow.
He co-wrote the screenplay for Bullets Over
He
Broadway.
did, but he has nothing to do with the musical.
Not with the book. So I'm very curious to see how it's going to work out. And it seems like they've cast it with real musical theater trooper types, which
Zach
concerns me a bit.
Yes.
Vincent
Pastorelli.
Yes. Did you see Vincent Pastor's Music Man? He was great, I thought. Paper Mill Playhouse.
He can do
I just am amazed
Karen
at the...
Ziemba, Marin Mazzi.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm amazed at the imagination on Broadway this year. I mean, not only Bullets Over Broadway, Aladdin, Bridges of Madison County, Rocky. Let's take a movie and make it into a musical.
Is this a new trend? This making movies into musicals?
At least in
This
Bullets
is
Over
where I came
Broadway,
in 10
it's
years
old
ago.
songs.
This is where I came in 10 years ago when I started doing this show. Of course they're making them for movies. They've always made them for movies. The thing that's smart about Bullets Over Broadway and this timing is there is not, I don't think there's one other musical comedy on Broadway. I mean, Aladdin, I guess it's a musical comedy if you're 7.
Inadvertently.
But
You mean, no, but there's these musical dramas.
there's
Oh, well,
musical
we'll get to those
dramas,
in a moment,
but in terms of what may be an old-fashioned hum before you go into the theater kind of musical comedy.
Well, you can't hum before, though, only because Woody Allen is using music from the songs from the 20s, but he's not telling anyone or disclosing.
And it's not ever going to get out.
no one
Not
will
even
know.
after it
What-
opens.
well,
No
what-
one
It'll be
will
like the
ever
crying
know.
game.
Well, apparently, apparently,
Don't tell.
Oh, that's right. Don't tell. Making whoopee might make it into the score. Keep that
all
a
of the
big
verses?
secret. But the thing is, I'm told he may not even list the songs in the playbill.
And so no one will be able to figure it out. It's
No.
the
But at
secret
least
is
it won't
dead
be,
by the
it
first
won't be a
preview.
ghastly new score. It'll be bad old songs.
Yeah, and
No,
I would,
it'll
I,
be
I,
good
I, would
old
know, but I would
songs.
rather, look, there's charming bad old songs in the original movie. They use Nagasaki and things like that. You know, they're really kind of fun, silly old songs.
Well, I hear that Frank Sinatra's actually writing these, not Woody Allen. That's an in-joke if you read the gossip.
It certainly is.
Yeah, so, but I mean, there seems to be a lot of excitement surrounding this. I mean, Woody Allen has not been to Broadway since what? Don't Drink the Water or something like that.
Well, certainly not with a musical.
I think it could be really fantastic because, first of all, there are numbers within the project. I mean, there's the Bimbo Blonde. It just has a musicality to it as a
Well, it takes
premise.
place in the theater, so
Right.
And it's quick and it's funny, and you know that has a lot of potential. And as you say, most of the others are pretty.
But it's interesting you
Hard
mentioned
slog.
Doug McGrath, and not to be too harsh, but he wrote the book for Beautiful.
Which I happen to like very
I
much,
liked it
by
too.
the way.
Okay, then I'll just stop right there.
No, you go ahead. Listen,
Well,
you're entitled to your
with my-
opinion, how idiotic it may be.
With wearing my other hat as a critic, I really thought it was a terrible book, although a wonderful performance by Jesse Mueller, and there's a lot to recommend the
Carol
show.
King.
And undoubtedly will have a Jersey Boys kind of life. But I felt if there was a minimum you could do and still have it be a book for a musical, that's what he did.
I thought it was a little better than it was generally given credit for. I think that sketching in that kind of story so quickly is a real challenge, and I think that, considering the demands of the material, he did a pretty decent job.
But it was slick and entertaining, and I liked it, but you didn't learn anything about Carole King. By the end of the show, I was like, I'm dying to meet Carole King to find out what she's like.
Well, you won't,
And
because
when-
she's not even bothering to go
And
to
she
the
won't
show.
even go there.
She won't see the show, so you'll never meet her there.
You find
you
out
did-
she's a nice woman who's very gifted, and she had a divorce.
But when you did research after you saw that the story of the book was left out a lot and really glossed over, and it was like a 50s thing that McGrath had to please all these people and say nice things about them.
Similar to the Janis Joplin show, where the
Right.
siblings are in charge, and you're getting
that's
a
a
very
little-
watered-down version.
I enjoyed Beautiful. I thought the book was a little more than serviceable, and I enjoyed that whole era that it evoked of the songwriters in the Brill Building, or what was it called?
1650 Broadway, the
1650.
one across the
The
street.
one across the street. They'll have an office there, and I need a hit tune for the Shirelles. Boom, they have to shut it down.
And it's nice to have like 6 musicals on Broadway at once, reproducing baby boomer favorites.
There's a new trend too.
Yes, why would that
when
be?
Did that happen? Yeah.
I can't
Now
figure that
there
trend
is a
out.
lot of there are a number of musicals coming that I just have my doubts about. I mean, can
Doubts
you
in the sense that you've never heard of them and you don't know what they are?
yes, yes, I wish in some cases. Is it going to get any goopier than the Bridges of Madison County? Have you seen the TV ad for the Bridges of Madison County? It looks like an ad for the Harlequin romance series or something like that.
I have seen the ad.
And?
It's a poor representation of the show.
You've seen the show too?
I saw an earlier version of the show.
And is it as goopy as I suspect it will be?
No,
Really?
it's really not. It is not based on the movie. It's barely based on the book. Marcia Norman went in and basically threw away everything except the main skeleton of the story and then built up another story
She made
around
more
it.
like Night Mother.
I mean, I can't judge the show as it will be now, but I think it has a better
Well,
chance.
when I think old Italian woman, I think Kelly O'Hara.
That's what I think too, exactly. Right.
the
Poor
new Anna
old
Magnani.
widow, lonely Ellie O'Hara.
It's the sequel to Light in the Piazza. It just
Yeah. If she's too young for the role, I'm not sure if she is, because she's a wonderful.
It's a different. They've
Wonderful
they've
performer.
reset the ages. It's different
Okay.
from the
And then,
movie.
like, the flip side for a non-musical is Raisin in the Sun, where Denzel Washington
Yes.
plays, ironically, Walter Younger.
We're
And,
calling Walter older
In this
already.
version, he's going to have not a 10-year-old son, but like a 50-year-old son.
The neighborhood will be
And it's all about
gentrified
that
by the time he
transitional
leaves it.
coming-of-age moment for Walter Younger at age 60. But I'll be there, because he's cute.
Hey, he's a mama's boy. It's taking him a long time to get out of the
break away
house.
from-
That's how they're
Diane
justifying.
Carroll, who would leave? All right, look, I don't know anything about Bridges of Madison. I haven't seen it like you have. The only thing I know is that I went
love
to.
the movie.
I do not love the movie, but I do. I did see Jason Robert Brown do a cabaret show at 54 Below a couple months ago. He did a couple of songs, or he had a couple of vocalists perform songs from this, and I agree with Jesse. Like they did not seem goopy to me at all.
Really?
So I'm.
Are they
you
sad
know,
and depressed like a lot of his
fingers-
songs?
They're rapturous,
Yes.
I would say, would be the right.
A friend of mine went to, and I can't name him, but a friend of mine who's prominent in the Broadway world went to summer camp with Jason Robert Brown. Teenage Jason Robert Brown. And I think somebody like maybe Idina Menzel or Kristen Chenoweth, they were there. They're doing Bye Bye Birdie, and this one's doing Annie, and this one's doing The Music Man, and Jason's writing his own musical about teen suicide.
Well, look, he wrote "Stars in the Moon," that big song of his, when he was like 17.
I've never heard it.
Oh, they
Stars
do
in
it
the Moon.
everywhere you go in the.
That was
cabaret.
Michael John LaCusa.
All right, so
Well, speaking of
Another three
Adina,
names.
can we speak about
Yes.
Adina?
Oh,
If
now
then.
here's another one that's coming that sounds could be very super serious. If then, Michael, what do you?
It's again based on a movie, Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow. No, I'm kidding. Well, Adina, inexplicably and wonderfully, is a pop star now. She's in
Yes.
something called Frozen. She does the voice of the bitch. And it's one of the biggest animated films of all time at the box
And
office.
she
And
sings
the
Let It
soundtrack
Go,
is like number
yeah.
one, and she has probably a top 10 hit coming.
And an Oscar
She
winning.
knocked
And
Beyonce
and
off
it's up
the
for
list.
the Oscar. It's up against the song from Mandela. So everything is coming up roses. for
Prisoner of
Adina.
Love. Sorry.
Wait, did you say
Mel
Idina
Brooks is
Menzel is playing? Okay, is playing Mandela.
So I think she's hotter than ever career-wise.
Yeah.
The show is,
Did
you
you
know,
go down to Washington to see it?
I did not, but I know about it. I actually read things, and the we always complain about shows having no substance. So then when shows try to have substance, we complain that they're, exceeding the brief of a Broadway musical. It's a show about a woman who makes an important choice in her life, and then we follow what happens to her based on two different choices. What would have happened if she did this one? What would have happened if she does that one?
Is it like Sleep No More, where you follow one or you follow the other?
You don't have to move around the theater, but you see both stories played out.
You get 2 lobsters and a pig, like the Diamond Horseshoe review, Queen of the Night.
I heard that in Washington, people were getting the stories
Topical.
confused.
Yeah,
There was some complaints about that. Apparently, they've been working on it.
But they're working on it, yeah.
Well,
Now, I'm curious, Adam. I read Peter Marx's review in Washington, and while he was supportive of the show, he had some reservations, mainly that the narrative was confusing. Will you have that review in your mind when you go in to judge?
No, I actually try not to read out-of-town reviews before, if I can avoid it, just because it can be confusing, and they're talking about something that is different from the thing that you're seeing, and often they can actually make important changes that will change it entirely. I mean, Next to Normal is a great example of this by the same team.
By the same Brian Yorkie and Tom Kitt.
Yeah, the same team, and when it opened at the Vineyard, I reviewed it there. It wasn't working. They took it out of town. They reworked it. They brought it back with small but important changes. Like a quarter to a third of the show was different, but it worked much better. And so, if we had reviewed it based on just reading the initial reviews, we would be completely mistaken about how the show works. That's the point of these out of town.
it's the point, although all too frequently it is not the actual effect.
No.
But in this case, given that team, you would expect that they did do the work.
They have had success with this kind of thing in the past. I hope that they will again. And there are serious musicals. I mean, there are old musicals, but the suddenly, like, it's 1997 again, but you have Cabaret and Violet and Hedwig and the Angry Inch coming at the same time, which are all serious.
Don't forget Les Miserables.
And Les Miserables.
I'll be in the front row throwing mud and tears. And again, the imagination of the movie was a hit. Let's bring back the show.
But without the
Pained.
turn,
When I said Les Miserables, you look pained.
it's like the same damn old
He has tickets.
show without the turntable. That was the only reason I liked it, was the turntable.
I like a lot of Les Mis, for the record.
You do?
I do. I really
And
do.
you're happy it's coming. All right, Violet. I mean, do we need to see Violet? Is this
It's
really
never
an
been on
American musical masterpiece?
It's
as they-
another musical about a disfigured woman going to meet a faith healer. I am so sick of this.
God.
Wasn't that
The
Hello,
unsinkable
Dolly?
Molly Brown, if I'm not... Was it-
What should a musical be then? What is the right musical to come to Broadway right now?
Entertaining.
Well, who's to say it's not?
Slick,
It's
slick and thin
Oh,
and entertaining.
slick and thin. All right, you're right. Then Violet has no place on Broadway.
It actually is a good
fails.
musical. I saw it in its
I
original.
gotta ask you, though, is any, aside from those of us who cover this business and those of us who saw, well, I didn't see it, but you guys who saw Violet at some place where it was it?
Encores.
Encores, whatever that thing is called. Does the public care about Violet? Who's going to go buy a ticket?
Well,
to Violet?
they may
How are
not
gonna
know that they
about
care
it?
now, but it's a lovely show, as it turns out. I
And
mean, I
many of
only
them know
that-
Sutton Foster, who is the star, and it will certainly depend on word of mouth and what the critics say, but it's a crowded season. It is a concern. Oh, but it's at the Roundabout.
Yeah, but that's the other thing. It's in a limited run
Right.
in a
So
subscriber-based theater. It's not. It doesn't assume that there's going to be
Right.
a box office blast around the.
And
gotta
I think we
count-
should welcome something that's not a jukebox show, that's not based on a baby boomer movie. It's a serious musical.
And it has a
but-
beautiful score by Janine Tesori.
You know, it's interesting. What's missing, though, is we already said that really the only real musical comedy there is Bullets Over Broadway, but when was the last time we saw an original musical comedy? People are doing original serious musicals, but
Well,
no
Book of
seems to
Mormon.
be- well, yeah, that I go with the two.
Avenue
3 years
Q
ago.
is original. I mean, there's
They're
been a lot
few
of
and far-
the
they're
bigger
few and-
hits.
They're
few
very
and far
hard to
between.
do. I think it's even harder than doing a musical drama, an original musical.
Is that
drama.
because it's hard to get the money, or it's hard to have
It's hard to
a
write
new
funny
idea?
lines and funny
Because
songs.
wretches like us don't really like to laugh, and you really have to push us hard. I don't know why it's very hard to do
But
comedy.
the revivals too. That's interesting to me that the serious shows now, especially lately, are the ones that get revived. Like even this year, we're seeing Cabaret, we're seeing Hedwig, we're seeing Violet. They're Les Mis. They're substantive, dark, heavy shows. We're not getting the revivals of the musical comedy pleasers of yesteryear because the comedy style has changed too much and they don't entertain the way that they do.
Even among the non-musicals, they're almost all dramas. There's one romantic comedy that's currently open, but other
But
than
I
that,
don't think Hedwig They tried to revive Hedwig for years, but they had to wait till they got a big name, Neil Patrick Harris,
Right, yes.
before they could get the go-ahead to do it.
Right,
What
right.
dark, sad, tragic, turgid, I want to kill myself musical, Michael, would you like to see revived? Hello, Dolly.
That poem by Robert Browning, done as a 6-act opera.
That would be it. All right, now let's talk about the legitimate theater, the plays. One thing that I'm curious about, because I'm a history buff, is All the Way with Robert, what's his name? Cranston?
Bryan Cranston.
Right?
George Jetson, I think, is starring in it.
Bryan Cranston from
George Jessel?
that show that he was popular in.
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad. Three-hour play about LBJ. Is that up your alley?
Well, it's timely. It's about the pivotal moment in LBJ's career when he got the Civil Rights Bill, the landmark bill, passed. And it's not a one-man, Hal Holbrook, hi, I'm Lyndon Johnson. It's an ensemble piece. I just talked to Michael McKeon, who plays J. Edgar Hoover.
Who's a wonderful actor, by the way.
Interesting.
He's fantastic. And I said, it's your second drag role. And he's like, no, because he replaced Edna in Hairspray. But
He wasn't going with
this
that?
time it's just undergarments, he said.
Call me Mary.
But basically, Hoover's mission is to destroy Martin Luther King and end the Civil Rights Movement. And all of that stuff is worked into it. I haven't seen it, but I could take 3 hours.
Now, Adam, will you be preparing for your review of this by reading all 4 volumes of the Robert Caro,
I already have.
Lyndon Johnson biography?
I have not, and I will
It's
not.
fantastic. It's
very good.
fantastic.
I've heard it's wonderful. I don't have that kind of time.
You could listen to it at the gym like I do. It's excellent.
Do you like these historical plays, for example, like Frost Nixon, which we all seem to enjoy? I mean,
I think they all rise and fall on their own merits.
yeah. But they are larger than life theatrical characters. These people that they're writing about. I mean, Johnson.
Sometimes, but sometimes it can be portrayed in a way that makes them boring, and sometimes a thoroughly ordinary person can be made fascinating by the right playwright. I mean, that's what drama does a lot of the time. And often, I actually think that what happens is when you have these amazing careers and amazing larger-than-life figures, the temptation is to do these wide biographical swaths of material in the play, and that often leads to a certain dramatic sagginess, paradoxically. Like you end up with covering too much material.
Skipping through.
Yeah, I think it tends to be more effective when it focuses on a specific episode, so that you can treat it like a regular dramatic.
There's also the annoyance of having to stick pretty much to the historical record when there is such an obvious historical record. They can't very well just provide Johnson with he can't sleep with Marilyn Monroe.
Right. He can't decide to run for a second term and win.
To spice up the ending.
And we're nitpickier these days about historical accuracy.
Except in the Carole King musical.
Exactly.
What's your sense of this LBJ play? I hear it was running over 3 hours up in Boston, so they better.
People will go to long plays if the play supports it, if they feel entertained throughout it. I can't prejudge that. I'm willing to give it a chance, but we all have gotten a little used to those 90-minute no intermission shows recently.
They're addictive, those 90-minute intermissionless shows, aren't they? Yeah.
We have got Daniel Radcliffe coming in The Cripple of Inishmaan.
It's a good play, and it's a good part for him, and he got good reviews in it in London, although we, of course, don't read those. No. But what about one thing?
He was criticized for his dancing and How to Succeed, so now I was like, well, I'm playing a cripple.
Do you think that's why he chose the part?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
To avoid the dancing criticism. Okay.
You were going to make a profound
Act
point.
One, which is a new play by James Lapine based on the marvelous and historical, almost, what
totally
word did you
untrue.
use?
No, Act One, Moss Hart's great semi-fictional autobiography.
Oh, I didn't mean historical in the sense of accurate. I meant historical in the sense of important in theater.
Which was actually a terrible movie with George Hamilton as Moss Hart. I'm not making this up.
Did he have a tan back then, too?
Not yet.
Moss Hart from the Bronx was sporting his tan.
All moss, no heart.
Well, it's funny. I was on a panel today with James Lapine, and somebody asked him, have you read any of the biographies of Moss Hart, the real ones, that debunk a lot of the stuff in Act One? And are you going to do some debunking yourself? And James said, no. He said, I've read those books, but this was Moss Hart's view of his life, and it's a dramatic and exciting and thrilling
So
book.
it's a Carole King problem
And
again.
it's good. Yeah, he's going to whitewash it, but do we really need to know that Moss Hart was bisexual?
Well, I think Kitty
sad.
Carlisle would have liked to have known.
I'm not certain. I'm not sure she even knew.
She still doesn't know.
She still doesn't know, exactly.
But is Santino Fontana playing the role? Because on the website they list the cast, but they don't say who's playing
He
what.
plays him as a young man, and Tony Shalhoub plays him as a middle-aged man.
Well, I've got you on the subject, though. Have you read Act One, the Moss
I
Hart?
have not. I mean, I've skimmed
Do
it.
you read anything?
Oh,
no,
my
Robert
dear.
Never read
Barrow.
anything. I read Robert Browning.
You must read Act One. It's like the Bible.
No, I haven't. I haven't, and I've been meaning to. It's been on my shelf. But
Oh, you got it. Well,
next
sure
to
they
the,
sent
next
you
to the
one.
4 volumes of LBJ of Robert
volumes
Caro.
of Robert
Well, you should. It's a great book. It's
Yeah.
No, I actually, it's been on my reading list for a long time.
Well, it's
And
amazing
I
you're-
thought, well, I would use this as an occasion. I will read that one before seeing this one, unlike the Robert.
But because Act One for me and for Michael, I know, it partially influenced our participation in the theater. What books influenced you when you were a young man if you didn't read Act One?
Oh, about going into theater? It was
Yes.
plays. It was seeing plays.
Seeing
But
plays,
yeah, I
right.
wasn't reading about
Peter
them.
Brook's
But it was
endless
reading about them to some extent. It was reading critics to some extent. I used to.
Critic.
go to
You
the
read
library.
critics? That
Yeah,
inspired you to go to the theater?
It kind of did, sadly.
Well, the old critics.
The old ones, yeah. I wouldn't read any of these.
I have a
first
lot
today.
of Walter Kerr. I have, you know.
Yeah.
A
A lot of Jesse Green on your shelf.
Hey, I'm not that old.
Did you read Act One when you were young, Mike?
I listened to it at the gym. And you can tell how many times I went to the gym. I didn't get past the first chapter. But growing up, I watched The Ed Sullivan Show, and that began my addiction to theater. Because in between Topo Gigio and Senior Wences and Julie Budd, they would have actual scenes from Broadway musicals.
Yeah.
Most of them were
Yes.
terrible. Henry Sweet Henry, or How Now Dow Jones, or whatever. But I was still riveted and knew I had to be there.
There is a comedy coming up, right? There's the other one. There's the Harvey Fierstein.
Yeah, well, that's
Wait, is that a comedy? I'm
don't
not, I'm
know.
not. I'm,
I spoke to Harvey the other day, in fact, and he said as always, this stuff deals with questions of gender identity and all. That's called Casa Valentina, by the way, and it's about a real-life retreat up in the Catskills in the 50s and 60s where straight men went to dress as women. They were
J. Edgar Hoover went there.
all the time, transvestites.
Well,
but
Kinky Boots, Harvey said, was written as a straight character.
no, but this really is a historical, in the real sense. It really existed, and it really was only for straight, usually married men.
It's interesting, though. He told me the other day that the American Psychiatric Association long ago declassified homosexuality and gay people who dress as women as maladies, but heterosexuals who dress as women has not been declassified or
Because
not been
it's
thrown off the list.
disgusting?
It's still considered a malady.
It's
and
just not pretty.
well, Harvey's attitude was, they're essentially saying, well, we expect no more of you gay people, but come on, you heterosexuals, take those wigs off.
I don't think it's actually a comedy. Although I'm
He
sure
said there are-
it will have Harveyisms
Harvey's-
in it.
Harveyism, yeah, exactly. We've got to wrap it up. But Act One, did it have an impact on your life as a kid growing up?
Yeah, it did. Although not as much as reading Brendan Gill in the New Yorker and Walter Kerr or whoever.
Critics for you too, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
I know. I was a complete nerd.
Are we missing anything? We haven't talked about Off-Broadway at all. But
We
is
haven't
there
talked about Rocky.
One
Oh,
Off-Broadway, yes, please.
Speaking of
talked about
Off-Broadway, Rocky did $17 million Off-Broadway musical.
Oh, there's off-Broadway stuff too we can talk about, but we didn't talk about Rocky.
Yeah, well, I mean, what was there to say? It's another movie.
It's another movie. No, I'm fascinated with it just because it's the creative team is a very traditional Broadway musical kind of creative team. It's Thomas Meehan, who wrote the book and who wrote, Annie and the producers and Hairspray, and Ahrens and Flaherty, who wrote Ragtime and Once on This Island. And so with this team, you get paired up with Alex Timbers, the director, and he's a rising star with a distinct and interesting kind of silly, smart sensibility. So I'm interested in how those two things are going to come together with the property of Rocky, and how that's going to work. I'm just genuinely
It's going to be a silly, smart boxing match, Michael.
It's already one good song, Gonna Fly Now, right?
Oh,
Is
speaking
that from the 1920s?
Don't tell anybody.
It's in the show.
Speaking of flying, Michael's friends Craig Zadan and Neil Marin are producing, on the heels of the Sound of Music, Peter Pan on television, and I'm just very intrigued at who is going to play Peter Pan.
I heard they're going with a lesbian, Justin Bieber. I don't know. It's interesting to see which way they'll go gender-wise,
Yes,
because it
yes.
could be a boy.
Yeah.
The character is a boy, but there's something about a woman always playing it because it's someone
Katie
who
Lang?
never advances. No, it's someone who never advances to become a man.
But it's
So
hard to
can't-
imagine sort of a mom like Mary Martin was fabulous, but she was kind of mommed out when we look at it in hindsight.
I think it'll be
because it
Neil
doesn't-
Patrick Harris.
he can do anything.
That's a great
Isn't
idea.
he?
No,
I-
if they're going to do it as a movie, I think that in this day and age, they'll probably do it as realistically as they can. They'll probably cast a young, or like a kid that we
And then get a
we don't
star
necessarily-
for Captain Hook or
They're
something.
going to go for a box office name, such as a Carrie Underwood. That's what helps sell Sound of Music.
But he can get someone like that for Hook. I agree
Yeah.
with Jesse.
So give me a reality TV star who could play Captain Hook.
Carrie Underwood.
Snooki.
Simon Cowell, he'd be good, actually.
Okay, I'm sorry I brought it up.
All right. Well, off-Broadway.
Cut this whole
Off-Broadway.
On the subject of off-Broadway musicals that are movie adaptations and that are comedies, Heathers. I think Heathers is another big property that I'm really looking
Yes,
forward to seeing.
yes.
It's going to be at New World Stages, which is encouraging. If you've been following the descent of commercial off-Broadway, you know it's a very uphill battle to start something as a commercial off-Broadway project. So I think it's great. I hope it does well. And Larry O'Keefe, who wrote the score, is very talented. He wrote Bat Boy and Legally Blonde. And I know not everyone loves Legally Blonde, but I actually think it's better again than it was given credit for. And it should be a really fun, like it has the potential to be a really funny dark comedy in the right scale, it seems. So
Well, similar to Heathers, they're doing Little Miss Sunshine and Opposite of Sex. Oh, they flopped?
Yeah, I was going to say, really? Are they?
Off-Broadway, that is true, that is true.
Here Lies Love is returning, one of the best musicals of last season.
With Alex Timbers.
Is coming back at the Public Theater, but not of the Public Theater.
All right. More Alex Timbers. There we go.
Okay, thank you. Jesse Green from New York Magazine, Michael Musto from Out.com.
Can we talk about some straight plays next time, as it were?
Adam Feldman from Time Out. Thanks for being our guest tonight on Theater Talk.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production. Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Corey and Bob Donnelly Charitable Fund, the Noel Coward Foundation, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, plus public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency, and the Theater Development Fund's Technical Accessibility Program, which helps provide closed captioning.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you and good night.